And so they'll go to one era here and another era here, maybe preserving this gate so that a later generation can excavate below and find another gate. Yes? What's noteworthy here is that we have little, in Hebrew, these gateways, right? Sections of the gate where people would be sitting in the gate. Remember this in Ruth? They'd have benches where they'd be doing business, right, and talking, or judges as well. Judges would be at the gate for administrating justice. The gates are symbols of the city. In the book of Psalms, it says, "Lift up your gates, O you people." Right? It doesn't actually mean like, right? It means everybody inside the city. Right? So it's a monotony, autonomy. Autonomy is the word. A part for a whole. The gates symbolize the whole city. Right? So when you're reading those psalms or singing the song, "Lift up your gates," it means everybody inside the gates. Everybody together, which is the purpose of the Shema, Hear O Israel. Everybody together as one accord, right? Lift up your voice to the Lord. Okay, let's come on in the gates. This is a central courtyard called a rehov in Hebrew. And this is where often a marketplace would be, right, and selling and buying. We're going to continue on around the tel and we'll have a good view of modern Beersheba and see our hotel. Here we go.
We're over the country. Two different.
Left is New Beersheba. The monument off into the distance is the spot of the charge of the Light Brigade. 1917, British, Australian, New Zealand forces attacking the German and Turkish to defeat them in the charge of the Light Brigade.
Okay, we are now in the edge of Tel Beersheba, and we're pausing here for a moment, not just to see the Leonardo Hotel, that central hotel, the only really major hotel. The rest are offices in the modern town of Beersheba. So we have a great view from ancient Beersheba, where we are, of modern Beersheba, the skyline there. Here we're looking at an ancient, not hotel, but living conditions, an ancient house, an Israelite house. This is what's called a four-roomed house, and this is an important concept. Are you ready? Yeah. Israelites built in a very typical fashion, meaning a standardized form. So they often built with 4 different rooms. You'd have a larger house, smaller house, with the same basic floor plan. And that would be done in this way. You would have one bay here, another bay here, and a third bay right here, which is not very well preserved or excavated. But you can see it over there as well. 1, 2, 3. So 3 sections of the house, often having pillars here or a wall here. It might be an open courtyard to the sky, might be closed. But so 1 room, 2 rooms, 3 rooms, and then you go back
The bathroom.
through this doorway and you come to what's called a broad room. And these are the 4-room houses, or the Israelite houses. Very, very common and standard. So 1, 2, 3, 4, often pillared. And an entrance typically here on the side. You can see it over here as well. And so when the Israelites built, this is what we can imagine them building as. Questions? Comments? Yes.
So I heard that in Egypt there were some people that thought that the Israelites didn't exist there, but recent archaeology has discovered those early houses.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So Trinity, Hoffman, and others at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School have done a lot to show those roots of the Israelites in the Exodus narrative and in Egypt. And so yeah, finding a 4-room house shows that there's a Palestinian or Israelite presence, it seems, in Egypt. So yeah, it kind of took this floor pattern with them, it seems. We see this over in Jordan too. So, but we have to also wonder, like, do the Israelites, did they bring that in, or do they share it later on? Because it's not always in time. The Exodus takes place 15th century, 13th century BC. We have 2 different chronologies, two different possibilities of when the Exodus takes place, right? And then we have settlement from the 8th, 7th century BC, right? Moving back in the area of Reuben. We're covering a lot of ground, right? But the point is, yeah, this pattern seems to move with the Israelites as they're traveling. This is also the case, we can have to reimagine, right? The upper room that Elijah was given, or the doorway, Jephthah, vows whatever comes out of that door, right, is offered up to the Lord. So different examples of how the biblical stories relate to the architecture of the time are to be found in the text. Let's continue. Oh, yes. Question?
After 1947, would the settlements through here have been
kibbutzim. Yes. So if you look over to your right, you can see a Jewish town of Omer, and this is a Jewish town that is created after 1948. We do have some settlements that are taking place just before 1947 and even back in the 30s here in the Negev, but the majority of Jewish settlement here takes place in 1940 and after, or just before 1947, 1948 and after. The vast majority of the population here in the Negev, though, is Bedouin. This is a nomadic kind of person. Bedouin means a desert dweller in Arabic, a desert dweller who was nomadic and looking after sheep and goats. So there's about 200,000 Bedouin, or more, 250 maybe 1,000 Bedouin living here in the Negev. So they make up the dominant population group. But that's changing over time because Israel is really trying to move more and more into the Negev to utilize this ground. To utilize, because Tel Aviv is, the housing prices are astronomical here in Israel. And so the farther away you go, the cheaper it goes, and we have all this land, why don't we utilize it? So they're moving the bases, the army base, the big army bases of Tel Aviv are now moving to the Negev. They're selling that off and making a whole city of the army, so it's shifting. This is the vision of Ben Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, right? Who his vision was settle the Negev. This is where we were birthed, in a sense, as a nation. Abraham was here. This is where we're destined, right, to grow. And Israel has done tremendous efforts of bringing water all the way from the Sea of Galilee down here to the Negev, and with that water, they've allowed the Negev to flourish, right? So back in the 50s, they were building this massive 8-foot wide or so pipeline. You could drive through a small Jeep. Pictures of that, right? Small Jeep coming through this pipeline, bringing water all the way down here to the Negev. to revitalize this area. So yes, many kibbutzim. That's a community. That's a Hebrew word that means lekabetz, to gather people. So that's a socialistic kind of term. It was very popular in the 1800s and the early 1900s as Jews came back to live in the land. It is less popular today because people realize how self-centered human nature is, and sharing the cake evenly without working evenly doesn't work, right? So there is a lot of privatization that's taking place. But anyway, kibbutzim are predominant here in the south, but by and large we still have a lot of Bedouin as the indigenous people who are also Israeli citizens.
But
right?
they are
kind of a variety of Arabs.
Across boundaries, national boundaries.
Also, there are Bedouin of Petra and Bedouin of Jordan, right? But we have a large group of Bedouin here in Israel. The Bedouin are Israeli citizens. They have every right, as Israeli citizens. But there's also Bedouin from the south, which are different from the Bedouin of the north. So the Bedouin of the south have had some struggles with the Israeli government and don't serve in the Israeli army. But the Bedouin of the north are strong supporters of the state of Israel and serve the Israeli army as trackers and things like that. So things are complicated here in the land between. It's a good place to call it the land in between. It's between three continents: Africa, Asia, Europe, right? And it's the meeting place of so many peoples and cultures. It's a very complicated network of geography, of topography, and of people.
And religion.
Yeah. Let's continue on from the four-room house, which the back have a casement wall that's an outer and an inner wall, which is used for living when there's time of peace and time of war. What do? You fill in that back room, and it becomes a really thick wall, right? That's called a casement wall. We're going to move from the four-room house to the casement wall and head towards our overview of the Anzac battle, 1917.